Today we're going to talk about CrewAI, which is a Python framework that allows you to work with multiple agents. So you have a crew of agents, so to say. They all work together, they're orchestrated, and they solve the task for you by doing something that we could call separation of concerns. So you have, for example, one agent that is for researching stuff, another agent that is for summarizing stuff, another agent that evaluates the risk of the data that the other agents gathered. So you have multiple agents working together as a team to solve a problem, rather than just one agent calling different tools. This is a quite interesting approach, so if you like this video, let me know by hitting a like button and subscribing, but now let us get right into it. Alright, so that's the thing we're going to talk about today, CrewAI. As I already mentioned, a Python framework for working with multiple agents. You could also say orchestrating multiple agents and working on complex workflows. Very easy to set up. Most of you guys have probably heard about it at least once in your life. And today we're going to take a look at how to use it and how to use it easily. We're going to do that by looking at an example, which is going to be gathering information about a specific stock by providing the ticker symbol, for example, AAPL for Apple, NVDA for NVIDIA. And then we're going to get different tasks done by different agents, and the result is going to be a brief on the current situation for the stock. So let us jump right into the installation process. We click on Docs, we click on Documentation, and we click on Installation. Down here you find instructions to install UV, which is the Rust-based Python package manager. I basically use it in all of my tutorials, although I don't show you every time how to install it. This time we need it because CrewAI is installed as a UV tool. So make sure you install UV on your system. You find the installation instructions here. On Mac and Linux, you just run this curl command. On Windows, you run a PowerShell command. However, I'm pretty sure you can also install UV as a Python package. So you can just do pip or pip3 install UV. I'm pretty sure that you should be able to install it by doing that as well. However, once you have UV on your system, the only thing you need to do is you need to say UV tool install CrewAI. So we can open up a terminal, provided that you have UV installed. You can say UV tool install CrewAI, and now this is a tool that you can use across different repositories here. In this case now, as you can see, installed one executable CrewAI. And with this tool installed now, we can create our first CrewAI project. We can also take a look at the command in the quick start section. We just do CrewAI create crew and then the name of our project. And from now on, we're not going to focus on the docs anymore. I'm going to teach you the rest. So let us open up a terminal and navigate to the directory that we want to be working in today. This is going to be the tutorial directory in my case. And here now we're going to run the command that I just showed you, CrewAI create crew, and let's call this now stock briefing, for example. So that is going to create our CrewAI project. The first thing that we need to select here is the provider of the LLM service, so to say. You need some intelligence running the agents. You can choose OpenAI, Anthropic, and so on. You can also go with a local version, Ollama. In this video today, I'm going to show you how to do it with OpenAI and how to do it with Ollama. I'm going to start out with OpenAI by providing an API key, and later on, I'm going to switch by adjusting the environment file, so the .env file, to use Ollama and a local model on my system. So the first thing I do now is I enter 1 to select OpenAI, then I select a model. Let's go with GPT-4o, so 5, and then now it asks me to pass the OpenAI API key. How do you do that? You go to the OpenAI API key section of your profile. So you log into the platform.openai.com, you go to the settings, you go to API keys, and in here now you create a new secret key. Probably you want to choose more suitable names than what I'm choosing here, but you just go to create new secret key, you give it a name, for example, CrewAI key or something like that. Then you click on create, there's going to be a code displayed, an API key displayed, you copy it, you paste it into the command line, you submit, and that's basically it. I'm going to skip that part to not show the key here. So as a result of that, I had to clear the terminal because I don't want you to see the API key, but as a result of that, now I have the stock briefing directory, so we can take a look at that. And in here, you can see we have source, test, and knowledge. Now, to follow a more modern approach, I'm going to use VS Code here. Let me zoom in so you can see the interface a little bit better. And let's explore the structure now. Here we have the .env file, which contains our API key and the model that we choose. We have the source directory, which contains the most important stuff. Knowledge is more like some context here. You could say it's a little bit like a system prompt / context information overall. So here it says username is John Doe, user is an AI engineer. We can change that to match our specific use case. But the most important stuff here is in the source directory. So we have config, we have tools, and then we have these two py files, CrewPy and main.py. So to understand the structure, it's very simple. We have custom tool. This is just a tool. We're going to replace this here with a simple tool that queries the Yahoo Finance API to get stock data. So this is just a very basic tool that you see in every other agentic AI framework as well, just a function that can be called by the agent. Then you have here the crew. The crew is basically a class that contains agents and tasks. By default here, we have a researcher and a reporting analyst with the respective tasks of researching and reporting. And then we have also the crew object or function down here. And in the main function, we actually use all of this. So the main function, or the main file, I should say here, is for actually doing the inference using the crew. So here we have the researching and reporting, and the topic is AI LLMs. In our case, we're going to have our stock briefing crew, and our input is going to be ticker AAPL, for example. So it's not going to be a topic, it's going to be ticker and something else. And the most important part here probably are the YAML files. So we have agents and tasks, and this is just text essentially. We have here the researcher agent and the reporting analyst agent. So these are just descriptions of what these specific agents are for. So the researcher is a senior data researcher on a given topic. This is a placeholder. This placeholder is filled as we saw in the main.py file. In our case, it's going to be the ticker. So we're going to have something like, you are a stock assistant. The goal is to, or a stock research assistant or briefing assistant, whatever you want to call it. Your goal is to gather as much information as possible on, and then ticker symbol. And then you also have a backstory. So you give it some context to ground its identity in something. So you have a role, a goal, and a backstory for all of these assistants or agents. And for the tasks, it's basically the same thing. You have description, expected output, and the agent. So the agent is the agent that this task belongs to. Then you describe what the task is about, and the expected output is more or less the format and the context of what we're actually expecting from this task. Now, in order to not confuse you, we're going to start from scratch. So I'm going to delete all of this. I'm going to delete all of this. We're going to write everything from scratch. We're not going to delete this here entirely, although I'm going to get rid of the comments so it looks more minimal. The less stuff we have to care about, the more we can focus on the important stuff. So we're going to keep it essential and simple here. We're going to remove everything that's just noise, and we're going to focus on a basic crew that gives us some stock briefing for a given ticker symbol. So actually, I'm also going to make these here into one-liners. So we're going to keep one actually only for orientation, and then we're going to delete the rest so we can do it from scratch. So the task also is going to be a single line here. And now everything looks much simpler. So we have the agent, the task, the crew. For main, we're going to also do some changes later on, but we're not going to focus on that yet. But now we already have a very simple structure. We're also going to make this one here simpler because we're going to remove the class structure, and we're just going to have a simple function that we can call to get some stock information. Now for this, first of all, let's get rid of Pydantic here. Let's also say from CrewAI.tools, we're not going to import base tool. We're going to just import tool. And also we're going to need yfinance. So for that, let's open up the terminal and let's install in this project here. So we have the PyProject toml. I'm going to say uv add yfinance. This is going to install yfinance. I think CrewAI is already part of the project. If not, we're going to also have to install it. Let me see if that's, if I go into PyProject toml. Actually, I shouldn't do that here in NeoVim if I'm using VS Code. So let me take a look at PyProject toml. CrewAI is already installed, so we don't need to care about this. The only thing is we need to also say VS Code actually use the correct interpreter. So we want to find this. For this, we go into venv bin. And then we go to the Python installation here, to the Python binary, and now we have autocomplete, and we should also have yfinance. So let's restructure this. Let's say import yfinance as yf. And now we're going to have a simple function that, given a ticker symbol, gives you the latest news headlines and also gives you the price and the price change. So compared to the previous close price. And I notice we also don't need the typing import here. So just yfinance in tool. We're going to say add tool, and we're going to provide a description, or I should say a name actually. So get stock data is going to be the name of the tool. Then I can create the function get stock data, given a ticker symbol, which is a string, return also a string. So this is going to be just the data in string format as text format, because that's what the agent can work with best. And now we're going to also provide a docstring. And a docstring is important not just for documentation purposes, but the docstring actually gives context to the agent to understand what this function is for. So we can say get current price and recent news for a given stock ticker symbol. Although that's probably not the best phrasing, it should know what this is about. So we're going to say now stock is equal to yfinance ticker. Now we have the stock object, and from the stock object we can get the current price, we can get the last close price, and we can also get some news articles. We're going to format all of this into a string and return it to the agent when the tool is called. So for the price, we're going to say info is equal to stock.info, and then we have two fields. The first one is the current underscore price, and that is info.get current price in camel case. We fall back to NA, so we didn't find it. There's nothing there. So we just use get to not get a key error if the current price is not present. And then also we're going to say previous close is info get, again in camel case, previous close. And then we can on the one hand display the current price, but also the change compared to the previous close. So we can say if current price is not equal to this NA, and also the previous close is not equal to that. In this case, we can do a percentage change. So we can say percentage change is equal to current price minus previous close, that whole thing divided by the previous close, and that whole thing times 100. And then as a string, we can say the price info is equal to a formatted string, which gives us the price. That's going to be the current price. And then we can say the percentage change is going to be here in brackets. And maybe we should also do some formatting. So let's say .2f here, and also plus .2f here. So that's that. Otherwise, we're going to just say price info is going to be no price info available. Then for the news, quite easily, we can just say news is equal to stock.news. This is going to give us a news object we can iterate over to get the headlines. So I'm going to say headlines is equal to an empty list, and then for a headline in news, give me the first 8 headlines. What I want to do is I want to extract just the title of the headline. So actually headline in news, maybe we should say for news item in news. I want to get the headlines, and the headlines are just a specific field of the news item. That's going to be title is equal to news item, and I think the field is called content. Yes, it's called content. And from this content field, I want to get the title. I want to fall back to empty if it doesn't exist, and I want to strip it of all white spaces and line breaks. So just .strip. That is the title, and we append this title to the headlines. So if title headlines append title. And maybe to have this formatted in a more reasonable way, let's make this an F string. Let's put some curly brackets around the title, and let's make it a bullet point list, at least in Markdown. That would be a bullet point list. Otherwise, we can say after the loop, if not headlines. So if the list of headlines is empty, we can say that headlines is just equal to a list containing no headlines available. Something like this. And then we can say the news text. Since we need to return a string, remember the news text is going to be all the news headlines joined by a line break. So \n join headlines. And then the final thing we return is a formatted string where we say, first of all, the price info, then \n, and then we can say news text. And maybe we should also use 2 \n's, and here we can say recent news \n to have better formatting. So that is of course not specific to CrewAI. This is just a basic function that pings the Yahoo Finance API to get some data and then summarizes it as a text. So very simple. We just get the price change, and some news. But that is going to be a tool that one of our agents is going to use. Speaking of these agents, let's go and define them in the YAML file. Remember, we have 3 fields. First of all, you specify the name of the agent. I'm going to start by defining an agent called collector. So as the name says, this is going to be the agent that actually gets the data from the Yahoo Finance API. So the collector will have 3 fields like every other agent tool. That's going to be the role. So we're going to use this greater than sign, and I'm going to say test for now, just so we have a placeholder. Then it's going to be also the goal of the agent, same structure, angle bracket, test, and then it's going to be the backstory. So that's also going to be test. So we just define every agent like this: collector, or the name of the agent, whatever, role, goal, backstory. Always the same structure, always these 3 fields. And here we can just put a simple description. For example, for the role, market, data, collector. Then we can say for the goal, gather latest price movements and news headlines for, and we can add ticker here as a placeholder by using curly brackets. So this would then be AAPL, NVDA, MSFT, whatever company you're using is going to be filled in into this placeholder. And for the backstory, you can say you collect real-time market data and news headlines for stocks. That is the agent. Now for the other 3, I don't want to just waste the time typing them out here. I'm going to copy paste them because first of all, you can specify this to be whatever you want, play around with this, add more agents, change them. The structure is always the same. You just have the name of the agent, role, goal, backstory, and your description as a string. Nothing fancy about it. You can use a placeholder. You can use multiple placeholders as well. And in my case now, these are the other agents that I want to use here. We have a summarizer, which is a news summarizer. It condenses down news headlines into 5 key bullet points. It extracts the most important information from news and presents it concisely. So that is the second step. You get the news articles, then you condense them down to 5 bullet points. Then you have a risk checker, which looks at the headlines and also at the price and identifies key risks and unknowns from the news. So it flags potential risks like earnings, guidance changes, macro events, and litigation. So this, of course, would make more sense if you get more information, like maybe some balance sheet information too, maybe some information from the annual report, but that is the third role. And finally, we have the daily brief writer, create a concise daily brief for the respective ticker symbol. It writes clear, actionable daily briefs covering what changed, why, and what to watch. So we can save that and move on to the tasks now. And for the task, we have a similar structure. We start with the name of the task. Let's say collect task. And then we have 3 fields again. These are called description. Again, use the angle bracket here to put some text. Then we have expected output, which is more or less the format explaining what we're actually expecting here. And then the agent that shall use this task, or that this task is assigned to. So we can go to agents, we can see collector, and I can just put collector here. So again, I'm going to be copy pasting the text here because that would be a waste of time to now just type them out. For the description here, I'm going to say use the get stock data tool. This is the name of the tool. Remember, we passed it when we defined the tool in the parentheses here, in the brackets, get stock data, that's the name. Use the get stock data tool to collect price and news for respective ticker symbol. Call the tool once and return all the data you receive. And then the expected output is going to be price data and news headlines returned from the tool. And then you can specify maybe the exact format, the data type, whatever, but that's as simple as it gets. Now for the other 3 tasks, we can just go and use this. I copy paste them here again. Summarize task, risk task, and brief task. Basically just for every agent, a single task here. Review the collected data and create exactly 5 bullet points. If news is limited, focus on price movement and general market context. By the way, if this feels rushed because you cannot type as fast and you constantly have to pause the video, there is a link in the description down below where you will find all this code. You will find the tasks and the agents and the whole code. So you don't need to type this from the screen. You can also just copy paste it from my files if you want to, and you can then adjust it to your specific use case. But basically, this summarizes now to exactly 5 bullet points. The risk task here is identifying 3 to 5 potential risks. And then we have 6 to 8 line daily brief for the respective ticker symbol. That is what the agent will take as context to know what the agent is and to also know what the tasks are and what tools to call. And now the rest is quite simple. We now go to crew.py and we just have to make sure that the agents are instantiated based on these config files. So we already have the template here, agent. Before it was called researcher. Now we're going to call it collector. And I'm going to say return agent config is equal to agent config and then collector. And now all I have to do is I have to basically copy this, paste it 3 times. Now I have 3 agents called collector. I just have to rename them. If you don't remember what they're called, you can just do a split view here. We have the summarizer, risk checker, and brief writer. So I'm going to say summarizer and summarizer. Then we had the risk checker and the risk checker. And then finally, we have here the brief writer and the brief writer. So that's simple. Same thing with the tasks now. So I have the research task. This is now going to be the collection task or collector task. What did I call it? Collect task. So collect task and then just collect task. Again, copy this and paste it 3 times. Then rename it to be summarize task and risk task and brief task. So we can just say here, summarize. Then hopefully I can use the vim dot key to reproduce this. There you go. Risk task, then like this, and then brief task is going to be like that and like that. So these are the tasks. We can keep the crew as it was. We can also remove the docstring here. But basically we have the crew. It consists of all the agents and all the tasks which are defined up here, which in turn are also defined in these YAML files. And that's basically it. The only thing we now need to do to actually use this is we need to adjust the main.py file. And here we can also keep it simple. Just remove the docstrings like this. We also don't need try catch. I can just say do it, and yeah, if it fails, just raise an exception. Doesn't really matter. I can get rid of all the stuff that can confuse beginners. So let's get rid of the try except stuff. Let's get rid of all the stuff that we don't need. Same for the docstrings. Just get rid of all of it. And then we're left with the bare minimum, with the essential, so to say. I'm not sure, actually, we don't need run with trigger. We can just delete this. We're not going to use this. And by the way, this is not a crash course on CrewAI. If you want to have a more detailed video where we go through the individual components, I can also do that. But for now, we're just going to focus on the bare essentials, giving you a quick introduction, showing you what you can do with CrewAI, and then we can go deeper if you want to. But now, as I said, topic is going to be replaced. Actually, I can do that now for all these occurrences. Topic is going to be replaced with ticker. And also, I want to replace AI LLMs with a ticker symbol. So AI LLMs is going to be replaced by AAPL. And I'm going to get rid of current year. So like this, that's basically it. So to repeat, we have the tool that we can use to get the data. We have the agents and the task defined in YAML files. We then instantiate them in CrewPy, and then we just use the whole thing in main.py. That is the basic idea. And now we can see if this actually works. How do we do that? By saying CrewAI run. So CrewAI run will run the crew and it will do the task with AAPL. So you can see here, agent started, task started, collection. Use the get stock data tool to collect price and news for AAPL. Down here, we get the answer from this first agent. Task completed. Second agent starts, summarize task. So now we get new summarizer, review the collected data, create exactly 5 bullet points. We get the 5 bullet points. Next agent called, risk task. Okay, based on the summary, identify the 3 to 5 potential risks. Okay, risk analyst, we have the 5 points. And then we have the brief task, write a 6 to 8 line daily brief for Apple. And we can see here that in this concise answer, we have the daily brief, we have the stock price. We can see showing an increase. Okay, actually the data that I'm receiving here is outdated, probably because I'm not using the most recent headlines, but that's not too much the focus of this video here. You can also use different news sources. You can use a different portion of the news sources, but you can see that the general principle of orchestrating multiple agents to give you a final output, and you can see the final output here in crew completion, works very well. You have the separation of concerns, and this is very, very simple now because we have a basic task that every agent can also do alone. But if you have a more complex system and a more complex workflow, you might want to have multiple agents working together with different areas of specialization. Maybe one is focused on document extraction and OCR, another one is focused on exporting stuff and designing stuff, another one is focused on reasoning and thinking. So you can split the application areas of the different agents and make them work together. If I may for a second, I would like to plug myself in as the sponsor of my own video. If you go to my website neural9.com, you will find a tab services and a tab tutoring. Here you can hire me for all sorts of stuff like data science, machine learning, web development. If you need help with something in a project, here you can book me for one-on-one tutoring if you want me to teach you personally something that you don't understand. If you like my teaching style, on both pages at the bottom, you can contact me via mail and also via LinkedIn. Just wanted to let you know about this. Now, what I want to do now is I want to show you how to do that with Ollama. So I want to show you how we can actually replace GPT-4o here with a local model. For this, I'm going to say Ollama serve to run Ollama. And I'm also going to say Ollama list. I think I only have a basic Quen model here with 0.6 billion parameters. It's not going to be very competent, but we're still going to use it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into VS Code and I'm going to open up the .env file. I had to delete the key here so you don't see it, but basically here was my OpenAI API key and also the model I wanted to use. Now we're going to replace this file with Ollama information. So for this, we need to specify that our model is going to be Ollama/Quen 3 and then 0.6 billion parameters or whatever model you're using. For the OpenAI API key, we're going to just say Ollama and then we're going to say API base is equal to, and here we're going to put the URL of our locally hosted Ollama. I think the default port is 11434. So we're going to say localhost 11434. That's that. And just by doing that, it should now use our local model. So let me see what happens here in the command line. I'm going to clear. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and I'm going to just do CrewAI run again. So it's going to run the same task, but now it's going to use nothing. It fails because, of course, we need a dependency that we didn't install. And these dependencies, actually plural, are the following. We need to say UV add, and we need to install light LLM, fast API, AP scheduler, email dash validator, and then fast API underscore SSO for single sign-on. These are just dependencies that are needed for Ollama, so you can install them like this. And then we can do CrewAI run again, see what happens. And you can see now Ollama here is being used. We still start the collect task. It's instantiated here. We have the agent started. The agent also actually got the answer from Apple. So the collector got the news headlines actually already summarized. This is not that good, but this model is also not very capable. So we didn't get the news articles, unfortunately, but we still, as you can see, run through the agentic steps. We get here the calls to Ollama, and if you use a more capable model and you have more VRAM, it's also going to deliver better results. But that is how easily you can switch. And of course, the same thing works with Anthropic, with Google. You can just use any model you like. You can create the project already with the proper settings. And yeah, I think this is a pretty cool tool. I need to mention, though, I probably wouldn't use it in production. I don't know when I would use it. I think probably in most cases I would use LangGraph if I need complex workflows. I'm not saying it's useless. I would just say for the most part, I would consider it to be a side project, fun thing to explore, not necessarily something that I would use in production, but maybe I'm wrong about this. If you know someone who's using it in production, let me know in the comment section down below. So that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, if you're interested, on my website, you will find a services and a tutoring tab. There you can contact me if you need help with a project, a startup, a side hustle. If you want to learn something, if you want me to teach you something one-on-one, you can contact me there via LinkedIn or email. Besides that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video and bye.